My fiancée told me to man up after I had a panic attack, so I packed my bags and never gave her a reason why. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for most of my life, I felt like I've had to carry my emotions in silence. Fold them neatly, hide them somewhere deep inside, and keep moving. That's how I was raised. You don't cry. You don't complain. You survive. So when I met Jenna, I genuinely thought I had found someone who understood that about me. She was smart, funny in this effortless way, and had this intense focus when she looked at you, like you were the only person in the world. I fell for her quickly. Too quickly, maybe. We met at a friend's wedding. She was wearing this deep green dress, sipping white wine, and absolutely roasting the groom's Spotify playlist. I laughed more in 10 minutes with her than I had in months. We stayed up till 4 a.m., talking on the hotel balcony about everything from childhood trauma to our favorite breakfast foods. She didn't flinch when I opened up about my anxiety. She just nodded, smiled, and said, "Me too, sometimes. It's okay." I took that as a green light. The months that followed felt like healing wrapped in romance. She texted me good morning every day, asked about my therapy sessions, showed up to family cookouts. My mom said she was a breath of fresh air. My friends said I looked happy, not just functional, so I started telling her everything. The night terrors, the way my hands shake when I feel panic creeping in, the guilt I carried from a toxic childhood. And she'd listen. At least I thought she was listening. Looking back now, I think she liked that part of me only in theory. The soft, open version of me was cute when it was occasional, palatable, but she didn't sign up for the full, unfiltered weight of my emotions. Not like I had any idea what was coming next. It started small, barely noticeable if you weren't looking, the way she'd tease me around her friends, like the time I got overwhelmed at the farmer's market and needed a breather. Later that night, she laughed to her friend, "He's my little emotional support boyfriend." They both giggled. I forced a smile. I told myself she didn't mean anything by it, that it was just playful. I mean, wasn't that what couples do? Joke with each other? But it didn't stop there. Every time I showed vulnerability, it somehow became a story. If I had a rough day and needed a minute alone, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Guess we're doing the moody artist thing again." If I opened up about how certain family dynamics still haunt me, she'd counter with, "You really hold on to things, huh?" I tried bringing it up once, cautiously. I said, "Sometimes it feels like you're mocking me when I open up." She laughed and kissed my cheek. "Babe, you're just sensitive. I tease because I love." And maybe that was the moment I began shrinking a little. I stopped talking so much about the hard stuff. I kept things lighter, funnier, easier to digest. I didn't want to seem too much. And every time I swallowed a feeling, she praised me for being chill or low maintenance. It was rewarding to be emotionally invisible. But something didn't sit right, like I was slowly becoming a background character in my own life. I started replaying her words in my head, wondering if I was really too sensitive or if she was just not safe. I didn't know it then, but I had already started detaching, quietly, internally. And the next time I needed her the most, she'd throw my silence right back at me. To everyone else, we were that couple. The matching Christmas pajamas, the hand-in-hand Target runs, the Instagram posts captioned with inside jokes and Taylor Swift lyrics. People commented things like, "You two are goals," and "manifesting this kind of love." But no one saw what happened after the photo was taken. No one saw her roll her eyes when I asked for a moment to decompress. No one heard the clipped tone when I said I didn't feel like going out that night. No one saw me sitting in the bathroom with my fists clenched in silence because I didn't want to ruin the mood again. We had a brand. We were the fun, cute couple. And any deviation from that narrative? It pissed her off. She hated when I was quiet. She hated when I needed space. She hated when I cried. And the worst part, she never said it directly. She implied it, with her sighs, her cold shoulder, her sudden silence when I wasn't being on, like when I'd share a fear and she'd respond, "Okay, but what do you want me to do about it?" Eventually, I stopped needing her to understand. I just needed her to pretend, so I smiled for the selfies. I captioned our posts with goofy lines. I commented under her TikToks like we were teenagers in love. And people ate it up. You guys are perfect, but perfection is loud. And pain is quiet. And behind the curtain, I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Someone who apologized for being anxious. Someone who measured every word before saying it. Someone who needed permission to feel, and still I held on. Because I kept thinking, maybe if I just tried harder, I could make it work. I didn't realize then that the more I tried, the more of myself I was losing. But that loss would come into full view the night everything broke open. I'd just gotten off a Zoom call with my manager, and the news hit like a freight train. The company was downsizing. I was being let go. No severance, just gone. My chest tightened immediately, not because of the money, though yeah, that was part of it, but because I felt like I was spiraling again. My thoughts wouldn't stop. Everything was racing. Rent, bills, how Jenna would take it, what my parents would say. The room started closing in. I sat on the floor in our bedroom, trying to ground myself, trying to breathe. My fingers were numb, my vision blurry. I was in a full-blown panic attack. Jenna walked in with a smoothie in her hand. She looked down at me and said, "You're seriously doing this again?" Not what happened. Not "are you okay?" Just that one disgusted sentence. Like I was some kind of inconvenience. I couldn't even speak. I could barely breathe. I motioned for her to sit with me, hoping she'd at least hold my hand, rub my back, anything. But she just stood there. "You said you were better," she added flatly, then turned and walked out. I stayed there, on the floor, for what felt like hours. Alone in a house we decorated together. A house that looked like a home, but didn't feel like one anymore. Later that night, I heard her on the phone in the other room, laughing, talking about some influencer drama. I lay in bed, curled up, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, wondering how two people could live in the same space and still exist in completely different worlds. That was the first time I asked myself a terrifying question. What if this is as good as it gets with her? And worse, what if I'd already known the answer all along? After that night, something inside me cracked. I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't keep swallowing the lump in my throat every time she invalidated me. So I brought it up, calmly, during dinner the next evening. I told her I was thinking about going back to therapy full-time, and that maybe it would be helpful if we went to a couples session together. She didn't even look up from her pasta. "Why?" she asked. "I'm not the one who's falling apart." That stung more than I thought it would. I told her it wasn't about blame, it was about communication, about building something stronger, about meeting in the middle. She sighed and finally met my eyes. "Look, babe, therapy's your thing. I just don't believe in paying someone to tell me stuff I already know. I tried one last time. Could you just come once? One session, for me." She smiled like I was a child asking for candy. "I'll think about it." She didn't. The appointment came and went. I sat alone in the waiting room with a bottled water and an empty chair beside me. The therapist even asked if she was stuck in traffic. I lied and said maybe. But I knew. Later that night, when I gently asked what happened, she shrugged. I forgot. Plus, I had work. Then she added, like it was some sort of Band-Aid, "You know I love you, right? You're intense sometimes. It's exhausting." That word, exhausting, echoed louder than anything else. It was the first time I saw our dynamic clearly. My emotional world was a burden to her, a chore. She didn't want to understand me. She wanted me to manage myself into someone easier to love. And I think, deep down, I was starting to believe her. It was her brother's birthday dinner, a small, casual thing at her parents' house, just 10 people, pasta, wine, candles. I didn't want to go. I was already on edge that week, tight chest, racing thoughts, barely sleeping. But Jenna insisted, said I was being dramatic, and that skipping family events was a bad look. So I went, I sat at the table, nodding along, smiling through my migraine. Her brother started making some stupid joke about men these days being soft, something about crying over breakups or needing mental health days. Everyone laughed, including Jenna. I kept quiet, bit the inside of my cheek, tried to breathe. Then someone asked me how work was going. I said I was in between jobs right now and focusing on getting back into routine. Her mom frowned. Her dad said something like, "That's tough, but you've got to toughen up eventually." And her brother, her brother, leaned over and said, "You're not one of those guys who spirals and cries, right?" I laughed politely, but my throat tightened. I felt the pressure building. My vision blurred. I excused myself, said I needed a minute. I walked into the hallway, hands shaking. I leaned against the wall, breathing slow, trying to hold it back. That's when Jenna followed me. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't lower her voice. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Man up. You're embarrassing me." Something in me broke, not loudly, not with a scream or a sob, quietly, like a string inside me had been cut. I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I finally saw her, really saw her, and I knew right then, this wasn't about love anymore, it was about control. After that night, I stopped arguing, not out of peace, but out of strategy. She thought I'd gotten over it, that her comment had snapped me back into shape. In reality, I was detaching, carefully, deliberately, like unthreading a needle from skin. I began canceling plans I used to agree to, not with excuses, just with silence. I stopped initiating physical affection. I stopped oversharing my thoughts. She noticed occasionally, asked if I was okay, but always in passing. And when I said, "Yeah, just tired," she nodded and moved on. I started saving money. Not a lot, but enough. Skipped a few takeout nights. Took freelance gigs on the side. I opened a private checking account. Changed the password on my laptop. She didn't notice any of it. Instead, she bragged to her coworkers that things were finally normal again. That he's not as moody these days. That he's learning to just go with the flow. No, Jenna. I was planning my escape. Every time she laughed too hard at my expense, every time she said, "You used to be more fun," or rolled her eyes at my boundaries, I was mentally checking boxes. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a prop, someone who looked good in photos, kept his mouth shut, and smiled through panic like it was a passing mood. I knew I couldn't leave in a storm. Not with screaming, not with drama, because if I made a scene, she'd flip the script. She always did. I'd become the unstable boyfriend who bailed, the one with issues. No. I needed silence. I needed distance. I needed clean air, and the opportunity would come soon enough. She had a girls' trip planned, 4 days away. That would be my window. The plan was already in motion. I had a checklist saved on my phone, labeled groceries, just in case she ever saw it. But then came the message, the one that made everything snap into focus. It was from Megan, my best friend's fiancée. She screenshotted a group chat conversation she was in with some mutuals from Jenna's social circle. Jenna had been talking about me. Specifically, about my mental health. The texts read, "He's always playing the anxiety card. If I ask him to take the trash out or make a phone call, suddenly he's spiraling. It's like dating a therapy pamphlet. I swear he just uses it to avoid responsibility." I read them 3 times. My heart didn't race. My eyes didn't tear up. I just went still. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a moment of weakness. She was casually mocking me, in group chats, for sport, all while claiming to love me. All while telling people we were stronger than ever. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed, staring at my phone, feeling something shift in my spine. Not rage, not sorrow, just clarity. Pure, clean clarity. I texted Megan, "Thanks. Please don't say anything yet." Then I stood up, walked into the kitchen and opened the drawer where we kept spare keys. I pulled out the one she used for our apartment, slid it into my pocket. That night she came home tipsy from dinner with friends and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I said I was tired, kissed her forehead. I looked her in the eyes and said, "I'm good." And for once, I meant it, because I knew. The next time she left that apartment, I'd never be there when she got back. She left on a Friday morning, rolling suitcase, oversized sunglasses, loud goodbye. "Don't forget to water the plants," she called, blowing me a kiss from the doorway. I smiled, locked the door behind her. Then I stood there in silence. No music, no phone, just me and the sudden realization that I was alone in our apartment. And free. I moved fast. First, I pulled out the box I had hidden in the closet. Documents, passport, backup hard drive, a few Polaroids from my childhood. Then the essentials, laptop, clothes, toothbrush. Everything else, replaceable. I left the sweater she bought me, the mug with our initials, the stupid couple's calendar. I didn't leave a note. I didn't owe her one. I turned off my location sharing, blocked her on everything, phone, email, socials, logged out of our shared streaming accounts, texted the landlord about removing myself from the lease, told them it was urgent. They didn't ask questions. Then I called my cousin. He lived 2 states over and had offered me his guest room months ago. Back when I confessed that things weren't great, I hit the road by 3 p.m. 6 hours of open highway, messy playlists, and that weird adrenaline that comes from leaving a life behind. I didn't cry. I didn't second guess. I just drove, watching the sun dip behind me in the rearview mirror, leaving the city and her smaller and smaller with each mile. That night, I slept in a room that smelled like laundry detergent and old wood floors. The bed creaked. The sheets were scratchy, but I slept harder than I had in months. No meds. No panic, just silence. Real, peaceful silence, and for the first time in forever. I didn't feel like I had to explain myself to anyone. I woke up to 27 missed calls, 12 texts, 3 voicemails, all from Jenna. At first, they were calm, curious. "Hey, where are you? Thought you were going to call me when I landed." Then, "Are you okay? This isn't funny." And then they turned sharp. "What the actual hell is going on? You better not be doing something stupid just to prove a point." I didn't answer. She called my parents. My mom rang me 5 times, leaving voicemails that swung between worried and annoyed. "You need to call Jenna. She's scared. Don't do something you'll regret." Then finally, "Don't make this about your anxiety again." That one cut deeper than I expected. My own mother, still not getting it. I laid in bed that night staring at the cracked ceiling of my cousin's spare room. The fan clicked unevenly above me. I felt empty, like all the feelings I'd buried for years were finally bubbling up and asking, "Now what?" I almost texted her. I almost broke the silence and told her everything. Why I left. How much she hurt me. How exhausted I was trying to prove I was worthy of basic compassion. But I didn't. Because in that silence, something shifted. I realized I didn't miss her. I missed the version of myself I was trying to be for her. The man who thought love meant enduring quiet cruelty in exchange for temporary comfort. And that man, he deserved better, so I turned off my phone. I deleted her contact. I even wrote out a fake message in my notes just to get it out, and then erased it. Let her scream into the void. Let her wonder. She could spin the story however she wanted. Because for once in my life, I didn't need to defend my side. I was finally done explaining my pain to people who were never listening in the first place. The first week after leaving felt surreal. No arguments. No guilt tripping. No icy silences or forced apologies. Just me, the unfamiliar stillness of my cousin's apartment, and a body that had been on high alert for so long it didn't know how to relax. I started small. I took walks in the morning, no music, just the sound of my own footsteps and birds in the trees. I started cooking my own meals again. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Eggs, toast, cheap coffee tasted like freedom. My cousin gave me space. No lectures. No probing. Just, "Glad you're here, man. Stay as long as you need." One afternoon, I pulled out my old sketchbook. I hadn't drawn in months. Years, maybe. But my hands found the lines again. It felt clumsy and beautiful all at once, like remembering a language you used to speak fluently before someone made you forget. I started therapy again, this time for me only. My new therapist didn't ask me to justify anything. She just said, "What you went through was emotional neglect. It's okay to say that out loud." That broke me, in the best way, because it wasn't just Jenna. It was my upbringing, my parents, my inner voice telling me for decades that my feelings were too much, that my pain needed to be polished before being presented. And now, I was finally sitting with it, letting it be messy, letting me be messy. One night I had another panic attack. No warning, no trigger, just tightness in my chest and that old familiar fear. But this time I didn't run from it. I held my own hand, talked myself through it, breathed, cried, survived, and when it passed, I looked in the mirror, eyes red and swollen, and whispered, "I'm still here." It was 2 months later when I got the email. Subject line, "I deserve an explanation." No, "Hi." No, "How are you?" Just a demand. Like closure was something she was owed. Like I was a library book she forgot to return. She said I had blindsided her, that I ghosted our future, that she stuck by me during my worst moments, and this was how I repaid her. She said I was cruel, and for a moment, just a moment, I almost believed her. But then I remembered that night I begged her to hold my hand while I hyperventilated, and she just stared. I remembered the group chat screenshots, the therapy appointment she skipped, the hallway where she told me to man up. So, no, I didn't reply, because there was no explanation that would satisfy someone who never listened the first time. She didn't want the truth. She wanted control. She wanted a neat ending, a bow on the box, a version of me that explained my pain in a way that made her feel better about causing it. And that's not how healing works. I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because I finally realized that loving someone shouldn't cost you your voice, your sanity, or your sense of safety. I didn't respond to her email. I didn't unblock her. I didn't scroll her socials. I just lived. I kept drawing. I took a job at a local design firm. I made new playlists. I slept deeply. I laughed freely in the middle of conversations without looking over my shoulder to see if it was too much. One day, I might love again. But next time, I won't shrink to fit someone else's version of me. And if they ever ask why I left without saying a word, I'll smile, because the silence was the answer.